All right, guys, welcome back. It's time for some more exciting Maverick content. All right, now that we got the exhaust finished on this car, so if you didn't see the previous video doing the exhaust, I'll link that up above, but you can check that out. And then what we ran into here was we ran into a lot of interference issues here with the pipes going up over the axle. Mostly on the passenger side here, it actually hit the shock because the shock is inboard of the axle. Driver side was okay, but it was a little bit tight. All right, so I did what any sensible hot rodder would do is I got on Amazon and ordered the finest hot rod parts I could find. All right, so I picked up a set of Competition Engineering. These are just a pretty basic, simple three-way adjustable drag race shock. And I got some brackets here. These are adjustable brackets that are gonna get welded to the axle housing, and the shocks will get mounted up like this. I'm trying not to really turn this into a drag car, if you will, but the plan is to do a few drag and drives with this car, but that way I have the adjustable shocks and then I got the adjustable brackets and I can fine tune if I upgrade shocks later, suspension, that type of thing. I'd like to put Caltrax on this eventually, and Caltrax springs and all that stuff, you know, and then I'll want to upgrade the shocks again probably later. This will give me the ability to do that. And then I've got some nice round tubing that I'm going to put in. I'm going to mount the tube up here to the side of this frame rail, but this stuff is just sheet metal, you know, this thing being unibody. So I'm just going to make up some flat plate in here. I've got my high-tech CAD design here, as they always say, and I just happen to have a piece of 1/8 inch plate here that's perfect. So I'll put that one there, mark that one out, mark that one out. That'll be perfect. So let me cut these out real quick. Got those made up. It's turned out pretty nice. Nice and simple. Driver's side here. Let's see. Yep, that's gonna fit just right. That's good to go. And passenger side. And passenger side fits pretty good. I'm gonna cut this front edge just a little bit more. Okay, I got the driver's side fitted up, got everything for the most part cleaned up there. So there's the passenger side. Now I'm just gonna measure in between those and cut the tube and get that to fit. All right, guys, we've got this. So I got the cross tube here cut, and I've just been trying to get it fitted up in here. I just gotta figure out how high I need it and want it. I gotta make some measurements here, but I had to move the passenger side plate back a little bit because I forgot that this floor under the top is not even, but anyway, not a big deal. I'm just trying to figure out how I'm going to do this. I can either weld in the plates right now fully all the way around on the frame, and then I'll only be able to get probably 1/2 or 3/4 of the tube, or I do it vice versa. I tack weld it to the plates, pull everything down, weld the tube fully around the plate. I can get about 3/4 of the plates welded to the body. So I'm just trying to figure out which way is going to be best. I don't want to cut a hole in the floor to weld the top side. I don't want to get into any of that. So I'm going to do my least favorite thing in the world, and that's welding upside down next to a gas tank. I'm just going to tack this stuff in real quick, get it held. It's not going to be fun welding this. I tried to clean it as best I could, but it's still a little dirty and it's going to be a little splattery. So it won't look pretty, that's for sure, but it is what it is. All right, I got the passenger side done. It looks like crap, but it's dirty metal. I tried to clean it as best I could. But I know, excuses, whatever. But hey, it is what it is. It's welded all the way around for the most part. It's fine. It's just not super pretty. All it's got to do is stick two pieces of metal together. All right, she's fugly, but we got her. It's good enough. Okay, just got the bar tacked in there. Now the only thing I don't know that I gotta check is I gotta get the upper tabs and get this thing all mocked up and set up as far as like where this thing is gonna be out. Technically, I think this tube needs to be further back, but I can't because of the floor right here. Okay guys, I got the shocks mocked up here on the brackets and then the upper tabs. This one I'm a little worried about because it's gonna be tight up here at the floor. I may have to readjust these things. Okay, yeah, it's definitely got to be adjusted up. I can't get it over anymore because it hits the exhaust. I'd like to be up in this pocket, but I can't. All right, yeah, I got to move this stuff around. I got to take these bolts off and change the position of the bracket because I've got the vent up here on the axle that's in the way of this, so this has to be out. Plus, it can't be too close to the exhaust, yada, yada. Driver side's definitely a little more... needs a little more finagling, but I'll figure it out. Alrighty guys, I got the driver's side mocked up here. I'm not gonna lie, this was a little bit of a headache. Just trying to juggle all this stuff by myself and hold it up and make sure it's all level and everything, looking at it from the back of the car. And you know, I'm trying to get this all even as I can anyway. I ended up denting in the floor right there in that corner of the floor of the trunk just to give me a little extra space. I just needed to have that space and that helped out a lot. And the bracket's all square to the axle and I've got it all tacked on four sides. So for the most part, that one's pretty much set. All right, guys, got the passenger side all mocked up, set up. Everything's even with the driver's side. Even as I can get it. It's off slightly in a couple spots, but it'll be just fine. That's some real race car stuff right there, buddy. You better look out. All right, guys, I got her welded up. Welded up good enough. Everything welded out all right. Got both sides of the brackets welded. All right, next, we do the other side.
I knew I should have brought you that pre-perf.
It's all right. All right, guys, they're all mounted up, ready to go. Just shot some black paint on it real quick and looks pretty good. Pretty happy with that. Plenty of room on the exhaust. Next, I can get on the front end. I got to mount the shocks and I got to nut and bolt the whole front end and do all kinds of work up there. So let's get on that next. Boy, that thing is stiff. But that rear suspension is a little stiffer than I thought it was going to be, and those are set on the lowest setting as well. So we'll see how it is. Supposedly those shocks are really good and they work really well. So I need to tackle the front suspension now. So I just got to go through, nut and bolt it, put cotter pins in some areas. And then the tie rod boots and everything are all wore out. They're junk and original. So I just got some of these energy suspension polyurethane ones. And we're going to replace all those boots. Okay. These things don't feel too bad, but the problem is they're sealed and they're not greasable. I'm debating if I want to replace them or not. I probably should. They can't be that too terribly expensive, I would hope. Looks like they're original. I hate crap like this that you can't grease. All right, put these new boots on. These things still feel okay. I put a little bit of grease in them, but I'm gonna have to replace them eventually. Probably sooner than later, but for now, I'm just gonna run them. Guess I should have grabbed a ratchet wrench. All right, that takes care of the tie rods, the boots. All the ball joints are good to go. Everything's got cotter pins on it. That takes care of that. Now we can do the shocks. All right, well, I put the front end together, but then I realized I had another problem, so now we're going backwards again. So I pulled the whole front end back apart so I could put grease zerks in on these upper control arm pivots here. And while I was in there, I went ahead and just drilled some holes. So now I can run the grease zerk in through the body right there. It just makes it a lot easier. I tried to put 90-degree fittings on here, but they would not clear, so I just ended up drilling holes. That works good too. And since I was in there and I had the whole thing apart, I went ahead and just ordered new spring perches for it as well. I might as well just replace them. These things are old, and I think they're original to the car. So if you've been following me for a little while, you know that I'm building an old 1955 Chevy cab over, or COE. And what I did was I put that body and everything on top of a motorhome chassis, a 1991 motorhome. And basically the whole premises of that build was trying to do it on a budget and utilize as many of the motorhome components as I possibly could with that build. Well, the motorhome components have now spilled over into the Maverick build. Since I put a 4R70W in this car and it's powered by the Quick Shift 4 controller, I have the option of adding an overdrive on-off switch as well as an indicator light for the overdrive. So what I did was I found out that on the Maverick dash itself, there was one extra hole in the back of the cluster here, and this is for the fasten seatbelts indicator light. Well, there's also one on the dash, so they did not use this one from the factory. They used the one on the dash instead. I was going to wire in a little LED light. I was going to drill a hole in the dash and wire that for my indicator light for the overdrive being off light. But then once I was kind of looking at it, I was like, you know what, I'm going to use that fasten seatbelt sign. I think that'd be kind of cool, you know, turn the overdrive off, fasten seatbelt sign comes on, whatever. Anyway, I found this extra indicator light on the instrument cluster itself. So I found an old motorhome light socket here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this thing inside the cluster right here. So when I turn the overdrive off, it'll light up the fasten seatbelt sign on the cluster itself. I thought it'd be kind of neat to do that instead of just a normal generic, you know, LED light. Then I don't have to drill a hole in the dash either. All right, I got the spring perches and got my spring. Gotta try to get all this stuff screwed together here with my handy dandy homemade spring compressor. I made this compressor when I had my Cougar. And I had to change the springs in that thing, or I don't remember what I did that thing, but... All right, let me give that thing a few rounds, get it cranking here. Just get it pulled up a little bit anyway. I got the nuts on there, I'm just gonna try to draw it down. Okay. So the big flaw here is these bolts are are too big. I actually had to drill this control arm out a little bit. And then the nuts are big also on the bottom, so it's really tight underneath. So it just makes it a little more difficult to put in. So I don't know, whatever, this stuff's all aftermarket junk basically. So it is what it is. All right, there it is all together. Nothing special. All right, everything's greased up, cotter pin. The only thing I gotta do later, once I get the other side done, I gotta do the sway bar, but other than that, that's it. All right, just gonna knock the driver's side out real quick and get this over with. I won't bore you with the rest of it. This is the factory one. It uses a smaller bolt, uses a 3/8 bolt. And then these aftermarket ones, they use a much bigger metric bolt. I know there's better ones out there, the Scott Drake ones, all that type of stuff I'd really like to run, but for now, I just wanna get this thing on the road. I'm not worried about it. Eventually, I wanna do like a Colt 65 or whatever that is, the AJE front suspension, or that Total Control, I think it is. They make a really nice suspension setup for these things as well. Okay guys, front suspension is done. Everything's all put back together again. Shock tower, shocks, and the export braces are all in. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't like the export braces at first, the chrome and all that, but they actually do look pretty good. I like them. All right, so that takes care of the suspension on this car. We are done, we are good to go. All right guys, well next video is gonna be driving this thing. I got a whole bunch of little details I just need to finish up and work on with the wiring and whatnot. We'll get all that stuff figured out. But anyway, thanks for watching guys. Stay tuned for the next one. Drive this thing, hopefully do some burnouts. All right guys, have a great day.